Welcome back to the last part of this tutorial. We will now expand our POM file, so a glassfish resource file will be automatically deployed on our server. First, we need to create a glassfish resource file. For that, we will create a subfolder where we place our files we need. I will call the subfolder files, and into this folder I will create a new file called glassfish-resources.xml. You can name it however you want. It's recommended to use the ending .xml because the file will be the format of an XML file. First we will add a header, which you can see here, the basic XML header, and defining a doc type for the Glassfish application server resource definition. Then we add a new node called resources. Into this resource file we can now describe which resources should be added to our Glassfish server. So what resources can we use here? If you use the auto-completion, you see you can create a jdbc-connection-pool, a jdbc resources, Maven resources, and basically all other resource types you can add over the admin GUI or the ASAdmin command line tool. So for our example, we will just add a jdbc-connection-pool with the name test pool and the REST type Java XSQL data source. We can let this as it is. The data source class name will be MySQL. So those parameters I'm adding here are the basic ones we already added manually about the admin panel in a previous tutorial, and this allows us to automatically deploy this every time we deploy our application, so we can be sure that on every server where we deploy the application all resources, all requirements are being taken. So we will add a property here, which is the URL, where you will enter your jdbc MySQL URL. I will let this empty for now. Property user, my user, and the property password, which is my password. So those files are not a real database connection, but it's enough to show the how the example is working. Now we go back to our POM XML file. Here we have already created our plugin for the Glassfish deployment, and we are adding a new plugin scope in our POM file. The plugin can be found with the group ID org.codehouse.mojo. Then we use the artifact ID, which is called exec-maven-plugin, and we are using the version 1.2.1, but I'm pretty sure that the version isn't important for this tutorial. Then we add a configuration where we define an executable, which is the asadmin.bat file, which is located in your bin folder of your Glassfish server. If you are using Linux, you would just define the asadmin file without the extension. And then we add scope arguments, where we define certain arguments, and the arguments are directly added onto the asadmin.bat command. First argument will be the host argument, which will be localhost. Here you can enter again every server you want. Then we add the argument port, which is 4848, and the user, which is admin. Now we need to define a password file, so we can't use a password directly here. We need to define a file where we load our password from. In this case I will create the password file on the files and call it password.txt, and the file needs to have a certain structure, so we will add a file called password.txt, and in this file we now have to write as admin, and in this file we now have to write as_admin_password equals, and now our password, in this case it's test for me, so whatever password you set to your Glassfish. Then we add the argument called interactive on false. This needs to be done to let the command run on the command line without any prompts or confirmants we have to accept. Then we again add the echo true and the ters true to get as many outputs as possible if we have to analyze some faults. We will then call the add-resources, and by saying the property upload is true, we can now define a file which should be uploaded to the server, which is glassfish-resources.xml. So what's happening here? First, the asadmin file will be called, giving the arguments of our local host with the port. It's connecting to this one, logging in with the user and the password from the password file. It's calling the add-resources command on the remote server, which allows us to upload and insert a glassfish-resources.xml file. So now we want to run this. We go to run as, run configurations, and by adding the exec goal, we are defining that this block should be run after the goal package was done, but before our glassfish deploy, or in this case redeploy, because the application is already deployed on the server, is started. So we click apply and run. Now it's starting, and here's an error. Post, oh sorry, I write post, but it has to be port, and I forgot to add a second minus here. So we run it again, and the command was executed. So I will show you the log message. This was a command we executed, and the answer from our glassfish server was jdbc-connection-pool was created successfully. So we will now check this on our server, localhost 4848, log in, and now we see here our test pool was created with all the properties we passed through the glassfish-resources.xml file. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, feel free to write a comment, and I hope I see you soon.